7 bone-chilling Dogman attacks. The shocking truth behind these mysterious creatures. The night was dark, a cloak of shadows engulfing the small town of Bluff Hollow as the chill of terror seeped into the bones of its residents. It started with an uncanny howl, a sound that rattled cages, set dogs to barking, and made even the bravest souls shudder in their skin. They called it the Dogman, part man, part beast, and all nightmare. Townsfolk spoke in hushed tones about its enormous stature, its eyes glowing like fiery coals in the dead of night, and the whispered tales of how it claimed the lives of those unfortunate enough to cross its path. Little did they know, this creature was more than just folklore. Sam Dalton, a rugged local, had been plagued by the beast's presence. He'd heard it, the terrifying growls echoing in the woods, making his gut twist with fear. That night, standing by his truck, Sam felt an ominous weight in the air. When headlights washed over the trees, he swore he saw movement, dark, hulking figures darting between the trunks, vanishing into thin air, leaving him breathless. His heart pounded. Sweat prickled his back. The Dogman had a reputation, and it wasn't just chatter. Old Man Harris had vanished without a trace, devoured by something lurking in the shadows. As stories spread, so did paranoia. One witness claimed she spotted the creature climbing the roof of a barn, its claws scraping against the metal with a sound that sent chills down her spine. Another insisted the beast was drawn to blood, prowling around after hunting season, where desperation ran high. Parents locked their doors tight, whispers circulating about how it could smell fear. And it was hungry. Every survivor's encounter seemed to carry an urgency, each tale more harrowing than the last, each conclusion spiraling deeper into unease. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With each passing day, the tension rose. Shadows loomed outside windows, and children trembled at the thought of stepping out after sundown. The Dogman was no longer just a myth. It was a living, breathing terror that haunted their dreams. But who would be the next victim? Rumors swirled as Sam decided to venture into the woods that night, armed with only a flashlight and unyielding determination. Would he confront the creature that had stirred such fear in his heart? Or would he too become another statistic in the chilling saga of the Dogman? The air was thick with suspense as he stepped into the inky darkness, searching for answers that could lead to his salvation or doom. As Sam plunged deeper into the woods, the only sound was the crunch of dry leaves beneath his heavy boots. Each step felt like a heartbeat echoing in the stillness. He refused to let fear consume him. If Old Man Harris's fate lay hidden in these woods, Sam was determined to shine a light on it. He flicked on his flashlight, cutting through the oppressive darkness. But light doesn't always chase away shadows. The beam danced erratically, creating monstrous shapes that seemed to swirl and twist around him. The forest was alive with sounds, whispers of wind, rustling branches, and something else, a low growl that made the hair on his neck stand on end. He gripped his flashlight tighter, the fear a knot in his stomach. There was no turning back now. Suddenly, a piercing scream shattered the silence, slicing through the night air like a knife. It echoed around him, hanging in the trees for a moment before fading away. Sam froze. His heart raced as he listened, straining to hear another sound, another scream, anything that could guide him to the source of the terror. Was it someone else? Another victim? Panic began to rise, clawing at his throat. He moved toward the sound, his breath coming in shallow gasps. When he reached a clearing, the moon emerged from behind the clouds, casting an eerie glow over the scene. There, in the middle of the clearing, lay a torn piece of clothing, the fabric smeared with dark, sticky blood. Sam stumbled back, bile rising in his throat. Was this what remained of Old Man Harris? His mind raced, flooded with images of the beast that roamed these woods, its razor-sharp teeth ready to strike again. Then came the howl, and echo of primal rage filled the night, unmistakably near. It reverberated through his bones like thunder. Sam's instincts kicked in, and he turned, scanning the trees, looking for any sign of the creature. He felt watched, a cold sweat coating his brow. It was out there, stalking him, hungry, patient, just waiting for the right moment. But wait, was that movement? A shadow slipped between the trees, not far from where he stood. The flashlight flickered, and he cursed under his breath, willing it to stay lit. His heart drummed violently as the shadow came closer, revealing an outline tall, lean, and terrifying. It moved with an unnatural grace, each step precise, deliberate. Sam's breath caught in his throat. There it was, the Dogman. Its eyes, glowing like burning coals, locked onto him, reflecting his fear back at him. The creature's snout twisted into a snarl, showing rows of jagged teeth that glistened in the moonlight. He took a step back, panic coursing through him like ice. "Stay back!" he shouted, voice trembling. But the Dogman only tilted its head, as if amused. A strange, chilling laugh echoed in the woods, not of this world, as it prowled closer, the ground trembling beneath its weight. Sam stumbled backward, a primal instinct taking over as he turned to run. The beast lunged, snapping at his heels, a rush of wind as it barreled through the trees, a blur of fur and muscle. With every ounce of strength, he pushed himself forward, branches whipping against his face, the thundering of his heart drowning out all else. And just when he thought he might escape, a loud crack stopped him cold. A giant branch fell from above, blocking his path to escape. He braced himself as a deep growl rose from behind him, the Dogman closing in, its breath hot against his neck. Was this how it ended? Trapped in the woods, faced with a creature of nightmares? At the last moment, he turned around to face the monster, ready to fight, knowing he couldn't give up without knowing the truth. Maybe there was a connection, maybe this wasn't just a mindless beast. But what truth would he discover, and would it save him or seal his fate? As the beast lunged, sharp claws extended, the air crackled with tension. The night was alive with deafening silence, as if the world held its breath. What would happen in that desperate moment when man meets monster? Sam's heart pounded in his chest as the Dogman lunged, claws glinting in the moonlight. Time seemed to slow, every heartbeat vibrating through his body like a drum. He felt alive, but terror clawed at him. The truth, or whatever it might reveal, hung in the air like smoke, thick and suffocating. Just when he thought his end was near, instinct kicked in. With a desperate lunge to the side, he dodged the beast's wide jaws, feeling the rush of wind as the creature missed him by a hair. He stumbled, falling to the ground. The forest floor was cold, and he could feel the damp earth seeping through his jeans. Scrambling to his feet, adrenaline surged through him. He could hear the Dogman snarl nearby, a sound that sent shivers down his spine. The beast was circling him, its heavy paws thudding against the forest floor, a predatory rhythm that made Sam's skin crawl. Pulling himself together, he glanced around for anything that could help him fight back. His flashlight flickered again but held strong for the moment. In its beam, he spotted an old wooden branch, gnarled and thick. It looked sturdy enough to swing. He rushed for it, adrenaline pumping as he grasped it with shaking hands. The Dogman paused, recognizing the shift in Sam's determination. Its eyes glimmered with a malevolent curiosity, watching every move he made. "Come on, you freak," Sam shouted, trying to mask his fear with anger. He couldn't let it sense his hesitation. The creature's snarl deepened, and it lunged again, but this time Sam was ready. He swung the branch with all his might, landing a glancing blow against the Dogman's snout. The impact sent a shock through his arms, but it also startled the beast, staggering it back. But the enormity of what he faced hit him hard. The Dogman shook its head, furious but unharmed, a primal fury reflected in its glowing eyes. Sam's bravado faltered, panic creeping in once more. Then he remembered Old Man Harris. Did he fight? Did he stand his ground against this creature? A shudder ran through him. He had to uncover the truth, whatever it was. Each moment spent in the woods felt like an eternity, every second dragging as he watched the creature like a hawk. The dogman crouched low, its muscles coiling like springs, primed for another attack. Sam's grip tightened around the branch, sweat trickling down his brow as fear clawed at him. He had to try one last time. The truth pulsed like a beacon in the distance. He needed answers. With a wild yell, Sam charged forward, branch raised high. The dogman met his ferocity with its own, slashing out with a massive paw. Sam ducked just in time, feeling the air rush by as the claws barely missed him. Then, unexpectedly, the ground beneath him shifted. It gave way, and Sam staggered backward, losing his balance. His foot slipped into a shallow hole, already hidden by leaves and darkness. The next moment, he was tumbling down, the branch flying from his hands, leaving him vulnerable and disoriented. He landed hard, the wind knocked out of him. As he gasped for breath, darkness closed in, and the call of the dogman echoed from above, deeper and more vicious than he had ever heard. Fear coursed through his veins as the snap of teeth drew closer. Sam blinked away the spinning world around him, and darkness loomed over him like an ominous cloud. Panic surged. He couldn't let it end this way. But was the true horror of the woods not the beast itself, but what it did to those who dared to step into its realm? The last thing he heard before the world went dark was a low growl, promising devastation, and the realization that perhaps he had entered a nightmare from which he could not wake. What fate awaited him in the depths of the woods? Would he uncover the dark secrets that lay buried beneath the soil, or would the dogman claim him as its next victim? Sam awakened with a jolt, a sharp pain slicing through his side. His senses flared to life, and for a moment he thought he could still hear the howl of the dogman above ground. The darkness surrounding him felt thick and humid, a heavy cloak that pressed down upon his chest, making it hard to breathe. Panic squeezed at his throat. He was trapped. He fumbled around, trying to gather his thoughts. The ground beneath him was uneven, soft earth and roots clawing at his skin. He could barely see, but the small beam from his flashlight flickered faintly, fighting against the oppressive black around him. Come on, he muttered under his breath, and just as hope flared, the light sputtered out, plunging him back into darkness. His heart raced. Sam strained to listen for the dogman, but all he could hear was the thudding of his own heart echoing in his ears. Every rustle of leaves above him felt like a warning. He breathed deeply, willing himself to focus. He couldn't give up now. Scooting on his belly, he felt with his hands, searching for a way out. The hole seemed to be a shallow pit, but there was no telling how far it extended. Panic rose like bile in his throat when he imagined the dogman prowling above, waiting for him to show himself. Suddenly, a low growl pierced the silence. Sam froze, the sound vibrating through the air with an eerie resonance. It was closer than before, making his skin crawl. He had to move. He had to get out. Sam dug his fingers into the dirt, pulling himself forward in a desperate crawl. Every grunt felt like an alarm ringing through the forest. Shadows danced above as he maneuvered through the dirt and roots. Just then, a sudden scraping sound sent adrenaline coursing through him. The dogman was nearby. Its claws gripped the ground, hungry for any sign of movement. The scraping grew louder, the beast scanning for prey. Sam's pulse raced. He couldn't let it find him. He pressed himself against the cool earth, heart pounding in his chest, praying the beast wouldn't discover him. The growl intensified, and he felt a thrill of fear like never before. And that moment, clarity struck. He couldn't become just another victim. Not here, not now. He needed to remember Old Man Harris's warnings about the woods, the legend. Each legend always hid a tie to the truth. The darkness didn't just belong to the dogman. It was the woods themselves that ensnared the unwary souls. He tasted dirt in his mouth as he thought. He had to face the darkness, uncover the truth himself, or be lost in this nightmare forever. But how? Then he spotted something glinting in the dirt next to him. His fingers clasped a metal object, a twisted, rusted knife. Felt heavy in his hand, a relic of the past. The growl above softened. The dogman paused, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. "All right," Sam whispered, resolve hardening his voice. "Let us do this." With renewed determination, he prepared himself, pressing the knife handle tighter, waiting for the beast to make its move. It was now or never, and whatever came next might uncover the horrifying truths hidden in the woods. The silence stretched, suffocating, and just as he thought he could find the courage within, he heard something that chilled him. Not the dogman, but a far deeper growl, one that shook him to his core, rumbling from somewhere beneath the earth itself. What new terror awaited him below? Was this just the beginning of unearthing secrets buried long ago, or had he awakened something far worse? The ground trembled as the low growl surged from beneath, reverberating through Sam's bones. It felt like the very earth was alive, hungry, and unforgiving. Panic flooded his chest, pushing him deeper into the dark pit. Where was the dogman? Was it still above him, or had it sensed the looming terror below? He pressed his back against the cool, damp wall of dirt, straining to hear. The growl shifted, deepening, like the growl of a predator ready to unleash its fury. Somehow, he felt the monstrous shift in the air. The dogman was no longer his only worry. Sam clenched the knife tightly, its rusted metal biting into his palm, a reminder of what was at stake. He was all alone, trapped in this nightmarish pit, but he wasn't finished yet. Deciding he couldn't wait any longer, he wriggled closer to the edge of the pit, his heart pounding louder than ever. With a determined shove, he pushed himself upward, clawing at the earth, striving for some glimpse of the outside world. Just as he managed to get the edge of the pit in sight, a shadow moved, dark and sinuous, stalking dangerously close. The moonlight broke through the branches overhead, illuminating the dogman's eyes, their amber glow likened to a burning ember in the night. They locked onto Sam, narrowing with a predatory instinct. He froze, heart racing, instinct screaming at him to retreat. Then, as if orchestrated by fate, the ground beneath him shuddered again, and the rumbling growl intensified. The dogman's ears pricked up, attention diverted toward the source. Sam took that instant to pull himself out, his body straining against every muscle. He needed to get out before both horror stories collided above him. As he tumbled onto the forest floor, he grabbed a nearby branch, a makeshift weapon that felt like it might crack under the pressure. The air was electric with tension. The dogman was not alone. Something else lurked in the shadows, moving fluidly, displacing leaves and twigs like a ghost in the night. Sam turned to face the dogman, but his eyes darted to find this new threat. It was a creature like nothing he had ever seen, a ghastly silhouette, reptilian and massive, rippling with muscles under scales glistening in the moonlight. Its breath hung heavy and sharp, smelling of decay and something far too sinister. The dogman and the reptilian creature regarded one another for a brief moment, both poised to attack. Their growls harmonized a symphony of terror. Sam's heart thundered in his chest. It dawned on him. He wasn't just running from one horror. He had stepped into a dangerous game, much larger than himself. With no time to spare, Sam dashed deeper into the woods, branches snapping against his face like angry whispers. Fear fueled his every step. But deep down, the thinking part of his mind questioned everything. What had he awakened? The growls faded behind him, but he could feel the weight of their presence, stalking just beyond the veil of trees. Suddenly, a flash of white lightning illuminated the forest. In that transient glow, Sam saw something that turned his blood cold, a distinctive marking on a tree, one Old Man Harris had warned about. It was a sign of a curse, a warning that no one should enter or exit. He stumbled, breathless, desperate not only to survive, but now to decipher the riddles of this accursed land. But the ground rumbled again beneath him, taking its next victim. How many secrets still lingered in these woods, and what fate awaited Sam? All he knew, as he ran deeper into the suffocating darkness, was that he was now racing against time and treachery whispered from the shadows. Was he fated to become another tale to be told by the fireside? Another soul lost to the secrets of the forest? The air grew thick with dread, wrapping around Sam like a suffocating blanket. Each step he took sent his heart pounding against his ribcage, a relentless reminder of how alive danger was all around him. What had Old Man Harris meant with his warnings? The curse? The monsters? Everything felt intertwined in this deadly dance of life and death that he was sprinting blind now, through bewitchingly twisted trees and treacherous roots that threatened to trip him at any moment. A voice in his head whispered that he should be turned back, but he pressed on, driven by sheer survival. The growls of the dogman and the reptilian creature lingered like echoes, promising that he wouldn't escape their grasp that easily. Suddenly, he stumbled over a gnarled root and fell hard to the ground, the breath knocked from his lungs. Pain radiated through his body, but he didn't dwell on it. With every ounce of strength he had left, he surged back to his feet, shaking dirt and leaves from his clothes. He could see shadows darting through the trees. Were they his imagination? No, they were there. Glimpses of movement stirred in the corner of his eye. The creatures were on his trail. A deafening roar, splitting the night, made him freeze in terror. It was a mix of a howl and a hiss, a call to arms in the dark. Fear shot through him like ice water. He had to make a choice now, fight or flee. Rushing forward again, he spotted a narrow stream shimmering beyond a clump of brambles. Maybe he could use the water to mask his scent. Instinctively, he veered in that direction, knowing that every moment counted. The forest fueled his urgency. The shadows closed in, dark and malevolent. He reached the stream and dashed into the water, feeling its biting chill lap against his skin. Heart racing, he submerged himself, hoping the current would carry him downstream, away from the beasts above. He could scarcely hear the sounds of the forest over the rush of water, but then they came back, grating growls, louder now, relentless with each passing moment. Dread seeped deeper into his bones. Like a painting fading in and out of color, he felt the fear devour his hope. Could he keep this up? The darkness was merciless, and he was alone against two nightmarish beasts. Suddenly, he felt something move in the water beside him. Cold tendrils brushed against his leg. Panic surged, and he struck out violently, expecting the worst. But there was nothing, just the current wrapping and swirling around him. The growls had stopped. A silence settled like a heavy blanket, as oppressive as the fear gnawing at his gut. Why had they stopped? The question left a bitter taste in his mouth. Slowly, cautiously, he pulled himself out of the stream. Water dripped from him, glistening in the moonlight. The temperature had dropped further, and a shiver traveled through him as he stood at the bank, scanning his surroundings. What happened next shocked him to his core. From behind a patch of thick vegetation, the dogman emerged, eyes glowing with hunger. But right next to it was the reptilian creature, its massive jaws opening wide, teeth glinting like daggers. They had found him, and now, united in their hunt, they were ready to pounce. Sam's breath hitched, body taut with terror, and all he could think was how exhausting it was to be so small and powerless against their looming wrath. He hadn't just stepped into their territory. He had become their prey. Just as he turned to flee, a rustling echoed from nearby brush. A new player? A chance for salvation? Or his final horror? The weight of choice enveloped him again. What lay behind the curtain of shadows? Would he face a third horror lurking in the depths of the forest? Or find an unexpected ally? The night held its breath, and so did Sam, as his trembling hands gripped the makeshift weapon tighter. The forest was alive, and its secrets were about to be unveiled. In a heartbeat, the rustling escalated, snapping Sam's focus away from the beasts waiting to pounce. Curiosity warred with fear as he stepped back, heart hammering loudly in his ears. Could this new noise mean help, or more danger? The underbrush swayed violently, branches snapping like old bones. From the shadows, something emerged, tall and imposing, yet unlike the horrors stalking him. A figure stepped into the moonlight, silhouetted against the silver glow. It was a woman, her hair wild, clothes tattered but her stance steady. "Run!" she shouted, urgency cutting through the night like a knife. Something in her tone made his gut clench. There was no time to question, no time to feel relief. He turned, instinctively following her command, racing into the woods once more. But then he heard it, a snarl, feral and menacing. Sam glanced back. The dogman was closing in, its eyes locked onto him like headlights on a dark road. The reptilian creature followed, powerful limbs propelling it forward, glistening scales shining ominously in the moonlight. "Over here," the woman called, waving him toward an ancient oak tree that loomed like a fortress. He dashed forward as she reared back a hefty branch, ready to swing. She had fire in her eyes, a fierce determination that caught him off guard. The clash of his frightened breath against her warrior spirit was jarring. She seemed unfazed by the beasts behind them. "Do you know how to use that?" he gasped, desperation lacing his words as he flew behind her just as the howls crescendoed around them. "Better than you," she snapped. There was a fierceness in her that demanded respect. With a sudden crash, the dogman lunged, jaws snapping inches from Sam's shoulder. The woman lashed out, wielding the branch like a weapon of vengeance. Wood met flesh with a sickening crunch, and the creature yowled in surprise and pain. Staggering back, the reptilian creature hissed, darting around the tree with remarkable speed. Sam felt a rush of adrenaline, electrifying his limbs. "What the hell are these things?" he shouted, glancing at her. "The cursed," she spat, her lips tightening into a grim line. "They hunt in packs, driven by a hunger you can't understand." She glanced back, eyes glimmering with fear and fury. "We need to distract them. I can lure them away, but you've got to follow." Before he could respond, she broke free from the tree, bolting toward the shadowy depths of the forest. Sam's breath came quick as he followed her lead, the chaos suddenly erupting around them. The dogman and the reptilian creature converged, their terrifying growls drowning out his thoughts. "Stick with me," she yelled, her voice a lifeline in the storm of terror that enveloped them. But just as they turned a corner, the ground beneath Sam sank, and suddenly, he found himself tumbling down into a smelly, dark pit. The creature's growls faded into the distance alongside the woman's shouted encouragement, replaced by a profound silence. Sam landed hard, the breath knocked out of him again. But this time he was not alone. Something stirred in the darkness around him. Shadows began to take form, and as his eyes adjusted, he realized he had landed in a cavern, the walls slick and glistening with moisture. Sam felt an eerie sensation crawl over his skin, like unseen eyes peering from the abyss. Panic flared as he pushed himself to his feet, heart thudding. Were there more monsters here? Would the hunt continue beneath the ground? Just when he thought it couldn't get worse, a glimmer caught his eye. Buried in the muck was a glinting object, partially obscured. Was it a tool, a weapon, or perhaps some piece of history long forgotten? Awareness washed over him. In the depths of this pit, answers were waiting, but could he risk reaching for them? And what if those monstrous terrors decided to follow him down? He stood on the edge, grappling with his next move. What lay trapped beneath the earth? A key to his survival or another vengeful horror? The darkness pressed in on Sam, thick and suffocating. He could hear soft skittering sounds, slithering through the shadows just beyond his view. The fear twisted his stomach into knots. He had learned one vital lesson in the last few hours. Darkness was where the monsters thrived. His heart raced as he felt along the cavern wall, slick and cool beneath his fingers. Every crackle and shift of the ground made him jump. The glint he'd seen earlier seemed to pulse with a faint promise of hope, almost mocking in its buried obscurity. He took a cautious step forward. With every heartbeat, dread clawed at him. What kind of hell awaited him in this subterranean labyrinth? He crouched low, straining his eyes to catch the glimmer again, his instincts fighting back against the urge to flee deeper into the darkness. As he reached for the gleaming object, he felt a rush of adrenaline like electricity coursing through his veins. Fingers trembling, he unearthed it from the muck. It was a rusted dagger, its surface pitted and corroded, but the blade still held an edge that matched his desperation. Not much of a weapon, he muttered to himself, his voice echoing strangely in the cavern. Still, it was better than nothing. It felt solid in his grip, its weight a small comfort amid the encroaching gloom. Suddenly, a scuttling noise crescendoed into the stillness, pulling his attention instantaneously. Panic swept through him like wildfire. He turned, his heart racing, dagger poised in front of him. Shapes shifted just at the edge of his vision, gray, elongated figures moving like phantoms against the walls. Shit! He steadied himself, trying to calm his breathing even as his pulse thundered in his ears. A slithering sound followed, harsh and guttural, the kind that clawed at the mind's eye with an instinctual fear. They were coming. He could feel it in his bones. The curse of being hunted tugged at him hard. These creatures had a history, a darkness that went deeper than mere instinct. He had to find a way out with every ounce of courage. He dashed toward the far side of the cave. The shadows seemed to shift and darken in response, as if the very darkness was alive, hungry. The damp air filled his lungs, heightening his senses. Each crack in the earth echoed a warning, a cry for help that might never come. There, a faint light flickered ahead. Hope surged within him. Sam sprinted toward it, dagger clutched tightly in his hand, each step pushing the dread further behind. The glimmer grew brighter, promising escape from the horrors lurking behind him. But as he approached, the ground gave way beneath his feet once more. This time he plummeted, hitting cold water with a splash. Shock coursed through him, dragging him down. He fought against the water, gasping for breath as he swam up. The light remained above him, shimmering tantalizingly close. His body burned with effort, urging him to rise, to escape the grasp of whatever dark haunt had him in its grip. Just before reaching the surface, he glimpsed movement in the depths below. Long, twisted forms swam through the watery abyss, eyes glinting with malicious intent. "Come on, come on," he yelled, desperation fueling his every move as he breached the surface. He gasped for air, searching frantically for the light. It flickered like a beacon above him, but now he could hear the slithering sounds from all around, the creatures stalking the water's edge as his hand clawed for the rocky bank. Sam faced the bitter realization. No matter how far he ran, the cursed beasts were always close behind. Would he find refuge in this new place? Or was it only the entrance to another trap? An unsettling thought crept into his mind. What if there was no escape from the cursed? The more he pondered, the colder the water felt around him. What awaited him beyond the light, and were the monsters just a breath away? The cold water enveloped Sam, numbing his limbs and draining the heat from his body. He fought against the lingering shock, his senses screaming for focus. The light ahead shimmered, a false promise flickering against the encroaching dark. If he wanted to survive, he had to reach it. With each stroke, he felt the tug of something in the depths, clawing at him, pulling him back into the suffocating embrace of the water. Panic surged. He could feel the invisible fingers of fear tightening around his throat, but he pushed through. The dagger was his lifeline, a reminder that he was still breathing. The surface erupted as he broke free, gasping, his throat raw. The cave's air hit him like a hammer, heavy and moist, while frigid droplets clung to his skin. The terrifying realization settled in. He wasn't alone. Shadows hunched along the edges of the water, forms just beyond the reach of the meager light, moving with predatory grace. "Move, move," he whispered, heart racing. Sam's feet found purchase on the slick rocks, but the moment of safety was a cruel illusion. The creatures were watching, patient and sinister, their elongated bodies coiled with the anticipation of a hunt. A low growl emanated from somewhere near the shadows, a sound primal enough to freeze the blood in his veins. Sam turned toward the glimmer in desperation. With each movement through the water, he heard their guttural murmurs escalating an orchestra of fear. He lunged for the bank, fingers digging into the cold, damp rock. The light above him felt unbearably far as the shadows gathered like storm clouds, sinister and foreboding. One step a leap and he slipped, crashing back into the water. The beasts shifted, gaining interest, gliding closer as the water churned chaotically around him. God, no! His cries drowned in a cacophony of splashes and snarls. Sam kicked against the dark whirlpool, fighting for air, for survival. The light was fading, becoming nothing more than a dream. That moment. Something surged beneath him, the sensation of slick scales brushing against his legs. Terror rippled through him. These were not just shadows. They were something else. He had stumbled into their territory, and they were hungry with a surge of adrenaline. He launched himself toward the bank again, pushing hard, clawing, dragging himself from the icy grasp. He could feel the pull of the creatures, the ripple in the water signaling they were moving in. A horrible clarity dawned on him. They were waiting for him to tire. Finally, with a desperate heave, he made it to the rocks and collapsed. The feral sounds faded slightly, but he knew they were still there, lurking just beyond the beam of light. Gasping for breath, he forced himself to look back. Two pairs of glinting eyes rested on him, flaring with hunger. "Why won't you just go away?" he muttered, his fingers tightening around the dagger. As calm as he tried to sound, deep within he understood the truth. These creatures were more than mere beasts. They were guardians of this damned place. The flicker above morphed. Shadows danced as the light shifted, revealing a passageway leading deeper into the depths. Sam's instincts screamed at him to flee, but he felt an enigmatic pull. Unbelievable. He whispered, the dagger trembling in his grasp. Could it be a way out? Or was he simply walking into the jaws of something worse? Just as he stood, adrenaline fueling his instincts, a sharp cry shattered the stillness. A monstrous figure broke from the darkness, and before he could react, it lunged. What lay hidden in the shadows beyond what he could see? Would his next step lead him to freedom, or would it seal his fate among the beasts lurking just behind him? Sam barely had time to react. The monstrous figure barreled forward, its growl resonating with the force of an earthquake. Instinct kicked in, and he dove to the side, narrowly avoiding the creature's savage lunge. The dagger slipped from his grip, clattering against the rough stones, mocking him with its absence as he scrambled to regain his footing. In the chaos, his heart raced. Panic clawed at his insides. He couldn't think about the darkness creeping around him or the monsters waiting in the shadows. Breathing heavily, Sam sprinted down the flickering passageway, the faint light casting eerie shapes on the walls. Each pounding step echoed, a pulse of anxiety as he fled deeper into the cave. The growls faded but lingered like a bad aftertaste, promising he wasn't free yet. Fear wrapped around him, tightening like a vice. Suddenly, the passage split into two. The light flickered ominously from both directions. Which way? Biting back his fear, he chose left, spurred on by a sense he could not explain. Hope quickened his steps, a fragile thread in the suffocating darkness. The tunnel opened up into a larger chamber, the air thick and humid. Stalactites hung from the ceiling, glimmering like predatory teeth. A squat figure huddled in the corner, shivering with fear, and Sam's heart squeezed. Could it be the woman he had seen before? "Help!" he shouted, racing toward her. "Get away!" she cried, scrambling to her feet in a panic. "You shouldn't be here." "No, I'm trying to save you," Sam countered, chest heaving. He caught sight of the Dogman raging at the entrance of the chamber, its eyes fixated on him, the light dancing in a way that almost made it look playful. But the moment was fleeting. The woman's eyes widened in realization. "You're not the first to come down here," she whispered, dread creeping into her tone. "We have to stop it. We can't let it claim another soul." Sam's gut twisted. "What do we do?" "Follow me." She darted toward the back of the chamber, and without second-guessing, he followed. As they ran, shadows flickered behind them, and the Dogman's snarls grew louder, echoing like thunder. They found an old wooden door, almost hidden behind a waterfall of vines. The woman shoved it open, and they burst through. A stench of decay hit them, but there was no time to recoil. They continued running down a narrow crawl space, the sound of rushing water guiding them, eventually leading to a stream this one cold and swift. "Jump!" she shouted, and without hesitating, they plunged into the water, swirling currents tugging them forward as they swam. Sam felt desperation pull at him, like invisible hands trying to drag him back into darkness. But they emerged from the side, gasping for breath, tangled together in a web of panic and relief. Laying on the bank, he looked around. "We made it!" The woman stared into the depths of the trees, eyes alert. "Not yet." The Dogman 1T give up easily. She gripped a jagged rock, preparing herself for what was to come. That a branch snapped, and Sam's heart dropped. The sound of growling echoed from the tunnel. He braced himself, knowing escape wouldn't be easy. They had entered a realm of monsters. Their very existence depended on confronting their fears together. As the Dogman appeared at the edge of the woods, the woman stood tall. "We fight for the truth and for every soul it has taken." Sam nodded, adrenaline surging through him again. With a shared resolve, they charged forward as the creature lunged. Sam could almost feel the electricity that surged through the air. Together they fought, dodging swipes and thrusting the jagged rock toward the beast. It was a dance of survival, of grit against savagery. Each close call sent thrills of adrenaline down his spine, grounding him, waking him up to the reality that life held fierce beauty in its struggle. With a last desperate lunge, Sam and the woman struck together at the same time, catching the Dogman off guard. It stumbled back, surprised, and in that moment, they felt the weight of the forest shift, the sacred balance of light and dark testing their will. The beast howled, a sound of anger and bewilderment, and turned to flee, retreating into the shadows that brought it to life. Breathing raggedly, they stood side by side, aware of the danger that still lingered. The battle was won, but not the war. "Why are you here?" she finally asked. "I had to find the truth, the connection," he replied, his voice steadier than before. "To face what haunts us, to understand the darkness within these woods." She nodded knowingly, and they turned to look down the dark path they had emerged from. "Then we will uncover it, together." Fueled by a flicker of hope, they began walking. The weight of the woods burdened their shoulders, shadows still lurking, but together they felt lighter, stronger as they ventured deeper. A sense of calm washed over Sam. The night still brimmed with secrets, but now he had a partner in this dark journey. They would confront whatever lay ahead, armed with truth and courage, prepared for every bone-chilling encounter yet to come, never losing sight of the lesson learned. Sometimes the monsters outside reveal much more about the ones within. This is your moment to join our community. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about Sam and his new ally. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this thrilling tale wraps up. Your support means everything. Stand with us in this journey and keep the stories alive.